When in March 2013 the government announced plans to build a new generation of nuclear reactors in the UK, it was suggested that the first of these, Hinkley C in Somerset, would provide clean power for 6 million homes and 25,000 local jobs. The reactors are EPRs, or European pressurised reactors, which are supposed to be safer and more efficient than previous designs. It was estimated that the plant, which will be run by the French firm EDF and part financed by the Chinese, would take between 8 and 10 years to become fully operational. At the time of the announcement, the Liberal Democrat MP Ed Davey was the Energy Minister.
Affordable new nuclear will play a critical role in a secure, diverse electricity supply for Britain and make a significant contribution to the transition to the low-carbon economy needed to tackle climate change. Therefore, this decision on planning aspects of the first new nuclear power station in a generation represents an important milestone in that process to decarbonise our electricity supply and economy.
But in recent weeks, doubts about the feasibility of the project have emerged. Earlier this month, EDF's chief financial officer resigned, citing concerns that the project could threaten the company's future. And today we learnt that an EDF board member has openly criticised the proposals. Christian Taxel says he's concerned about the costs and about technical issues and won't be voting for the project. Meanwhile, it's also emerged that some EDF engineers may have expressed doubts about the reactor technology. In an internal document leaked to the Financial Times, they argued that a redesign was needed in order to make the plant less complex and less expensive. Instead of pledging that the plant would be operational in 2025, they said the company should adopt a more realistic date of 2027. In response to the FT article, EDF issued a statement.
EDF refutes these rumours and confirms that the date of the first operation of the first reactor is fixed at the end of 2025 and that no delay is anticipated. EDF regards this anonymous press campaign as seriously harmful to our interests, as well as the interests of the industry and to jobs in France and Europe.
Well, to discuss the issues facing the project, we brought together Professor Nick Butler, a visiting fellow at King's College London and a former head of strategy for BP, and Tom Greatrex, chief executive of the Nuclear Industry Association. I asked Tom Greatrex how concerned we should be about the doubts expressed within the EDF organisation.
Look, this is a big, significant project. It's absolutely right that EDF, because the construction risk will be for EDF and not for the UK consumer, because we start to pay once power is generated from this plant, that they take seriously and they look at all aspects of this before making a decision. That's why, towards the end of last year, they undertook an independently led review of all the risks associated with the project and concluded that it was a project they wanted to pursue and are looking to invest in.
Nick Butler, the risks are with EDF, and actually this is a project that's long been in the pipeline and it's going to provide desperately needed energy to the UK.
Well, I'm surprised that Tom is so complacent. I don't think all the risks are with EDF. If this project doesn't work, and the last two projects trying to construct this sort of reactor have not worked, are still being built, they're years behind schedule and billions over budget. If they go ahead and then the project can't work, we're left with a huge gap in our energy needs. And I think we should take very seriously the warning from the engineers that was reported in the Financial Times this morning. I think these engineers, this is not swampy speaking. These are serious engineers. They're not anti-French, they're not anti-nuclear. And they're saying there's a very good case for delaying this project, I think, until at least one of these EPR reactors is actually up and working.
Tom Greatrex, they've talked about these new reactors being complex, untested, and they've pointed to the delays that have occurred in two similar projects in northern France and Finland as evidence of their concerns.
Well, it's difficult to really comment on the content of the document which the FT had seen, and I'm not aware of anybody else having seen, and I don't know on what level that was produced and what level it was discussed. EDF were involved in two constructions of the EPR reactor, one in northern France and one in China. The one in China will be generating within the next 12 months and the second one 6 months later. So those are under construction and they're coming towards the point at which they're able to generate. But the important point with the reactor is that in the UK context, it goes through and has been through a very thorough regulatory process through the generic design assessment, as it's called, which is independent of government, to assess the capability and the safety aspects of the reactor design. And then Obviously, EDF will have learnt from issues with the previous reactors. I think the issue is, and the reality is, that we have a significant issue to deal with, both in terms of our generation capacity, and over the course of the last 6 years, a huge amount of our capacity has gone offline. Just in the next month, 7 gigawatts of capacity is due to go offline. And we've also got binding national and soon to be international carbon commitments to meet as well. So we need to replace that capacity with a range of technologies, and nuclear has to be part of that. And I think that we should be pushing on with this project rather than trying to find a way to stop it or delay it.
Nick Butler, we're in the position of actually benefiting from other people's testing and mistakes.
Well, I wonder if Tom would agree that it would be much better if EDF would publish their internal white paper, which they haven't published, and if they would publish the internal reviews of what's gone wrong in France and Finland when these reactors have been attempted to be built, but it's not succeeded. And I think we should be absolutely realistic. A delay would be very costly to UK energy policy, and I think we need to accept now that a delay is coming, and therefore we've got to be ready and prepared against that. There are other things that could be done. It's not the best outcome, but we have to be realistic, and that's what the engineers are saying.
Tom Greatrex, EDF is sticking with the 2025 start date for this reactor. Do you think that's realistic?
They will obviously have made their assessment following the thorough independent review which EDF have undertaken towards the end of last year, to be in a position to be able to make a final decision on whether to invest in this project or not. And I think the reality is that there isn't an easy alternative to the capacity needs that we have as a country.
Nick Butler, if you're so concerned about this process, do you think those concerns exist in Whitehall? And if so, is there a plan B in your mind?
Yes, I don't think Whitehall is quite as complacent as Tom is. And I think I noted that Tom didn't answer the question as to whether it wouldn't be good now for EDF to publish all the internal documents and all the things that have gone wrong so that we can assess them. I think Whitehall is well aware of the risks, and I think they are developing a plan B. It's not published yet, and I think they're absolutely right to do so. We can't be complacent when the company is just being secretive.
But would there be a realistic plan B?
Yes, I think there are other nuclear providers who are ready to come forward. They're developing their plans. I think they could be speeded up. They've got to go through all the necessary safety processes. There's plenty of natural gas which could be used to cover the gap. And then I think that it would be good for EDF to reconsider now and to think whether there is an option of smaller reactors, less complex, less costly, that could be put in place in Hinkley and elsewhere. That takes a little time, but I think if we start with a realistic decision now that the EPR at Hinkley is going to be delayed for a very long time, then we can get on with real policy making.
Tom Greatrex, do you think there's any possibility that might be a consideration on the table?
The GDA process, the regulatory process to approve a reactor design, takes approximately 5 years. All these things will take time and will not be deliverable in the time period that we need to be able to start replacing some of that capacity that's going offline. And that sort of mid-2020s period is going to be absolutely crucial for our security supply. Even with the development of other technologies, we're still going to need significant low-carbon baseload power, which nuclear is the only way of being able to provide currently. And we need to be able to get on with delivering the projects that are able to provide that power at the time at which we need it. And other things may happen in the future and may well be complementary to that, but that isn't a reason to say that we should abandon the project that is the most advanced and is closest to be able to give us that low carbon baseload power we need for the future.
Tom Greatrex and Professor Nick Butler.